Hello and welcome to my video. It's been a bit of a while since I was on here. A few health problems, my dicky ticker. I've had sort of tests at the hospital. I had to wear a monitor for 48 hours, which was, I have to say, quite uncomfortable, particularly at night time. The last thing you want to do is turn over in your sleep and feel as though you're lying on a cast iron handbag. That's what it felt like anyway. But anyway, that's done, and but I won't get the results now for quite a while. But so I thought, anyway, let's. I'm still in the land of the living, so let's try painting something. And I've got an idea, and I've called this Fantasy and Magic. I was looking at some paintings by William Turner, and it looks to me as though occasionally he would just sort of have to paint, and he'd just sort of go mad and just sort of, you know, berserkly create a sky. So that's what I'm going to berserkly create a sky, and then I'm thinking that underneath the sky, okay, so I've zoomed in, you can't see the whole painting. You can see the width, you can see the top, but the below where the brush is here, there's another 6 or 7 inches, and I'll get to that in a moment. But I'm going to start with the sky. So let's just do some berserk sky stuff. It's not a very big picture, this, by the way, just so that you know, because I know some people are interested. The width, what is the width? The width is 60 centimetres, and the depth is 52 and a half. I'll put that in inches on the screen about nowish, and off we go. So first colour I'm using here is a little bit of royal blue with oil added. It's a powerful colour actually, royal blue. I'll just put a bit on there with no oil. This has got oil, this has got no oil. So you can see there's quite a difference. But anyway, it doesn't really matter, because this is fantasy and magic. In other words, let's sort of make it up as we go along. But underneath the sky, I'm going to put, I think, a seascape. A lot of people have been asking for seascapes. So years ago, must be, I don't know, maybe 13 years ago, I was in the south of England. And I went to a place called Burling Gap, and it's a gap in the South Downs, right on the coast. And there's some cliffs there. There's also the Seven Sisters, which are basically 7 humps of cliff. And it's quite an interesting place. In fact, it's a park. I think it's classed as a park. Seven Sisters Park, something like that. And just chucked a little bit of Payne's grey in that. And yeah, it's a nice place, nice day out, nice place for a walk. And anyway, I was there a while back, and I took a few photographs while I was there, but since then I've lost them. So I've got to do this from memory. And luckily it's photographic enough, my memory, to actually recall what it looked like. So the sky doesn't really matter. The sky, I don't sort of recall skies that I've seen particularly. Not exactly, but I know what I've seen. So let's just do a Turnerish sort of sky. I do like a bit of Turner. And there's something about his skies that are just a little bit crazy. Now he would put something like, what would he put? He'd chuck sort of red in it and yellow ochre and all kinds of stuff. I'm going to put in a bit of red ochre, I think, up here. Let's just do it. As I said, this is sort of fantasy and magic. So if you don't know what I'm talking about when I'm mentioning Turner, I'm sure if you're into painting, you've probably heard of William Turner. Full name, Joseph Mallord William Turner. I always get it around the wrong way. I have no idea why. Could just be stupidity, of course. I'm totally capable of it. Anyway, so yeah, his skies were quite crazy, really. So I'm going to do a little bit of craziness here. Just see what happens. I haven't painted for quite a while. I have put up a video, but it's not one that everyone will see. It's one of my Zoom classes, and I put that up. When did I put that up? I don't know. A while back, anyway. But it's a restricted view thing. It's only the people who were at the class get to see it. Now, I could sort of put it out for general viewing, but the problem is that when I'm doing Skype classes, I have to use a sort of gadget to get the pictures from here to Zoom, and it sort of mashes up the image. It comes out really quite rough. So it, in fact, it has sort of bars across it. It's very strange. It's extremely irritating, but it's the best that Zoom can handle. This camera, the one I'm using now, this is a high definition, Super Uni, all the bells and whistles type camera. It's really, really good for this sort of thing. But for, you know, actually transmitting on Zoom, it's it might as well be a cheap webcam, because the image is as good as you get from a webcam, frankly. So anyway, it's the best I can do. Now, I don't know whether it's worth putting out for general view. It's not quite, well, it's not as polished. I'm chatting away to the people in the class about all kinds of stuff. I don't know, maybe you wouldn't be interested. Anyway, let me know. I might change the settings so that you can see it. And the painting that I did for the class, I'll put it on the screen now. This is what I did. It's quite a long painting. So I think it's 100. Me and numbers, honestly, I'm really bad at numbers. I think it's about 120 by 60, something like that. It's very, very great big long painting anyway. So we'll see. Anyway, that'll go on the screen. I hope you've seen that now. Let's break that a little bit in there, I think. Let's just have a few squiggles there. You see, this is the mindset I like to get people in. Just to have a few squiggles here and a few squiggles there and see what happens, and maybe it'll be okay. Now, the one thing I do remember about this trip to this place, it was quite, I mean, for England, it's quite a bright sort of day, but then dark clouds came over and I sort of remembered it. So I want to try and recreate that. It wasn't quite Turnerish, it was just a little bit, suddenly it was a bit stormy. And there we go. Anyway, so these are, you know, very few colours. I'm using white, royal blue, Payne's grey and red ochre. Now I may use other colours later, I'm not sure. What I've got to do now in a moment is figure out the shape of the cliffs. I mean, it's a pretty a memorable type of cliff. It's quite high. It has crumbled, I think, since I was there. A few bits have dropped off, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. I'll do it as I remember it. So let's see, what should we do next? Let's get, I think we'll get another smaller brush. Let's see which one we'll use. I've got quite a stack of them here, but I know I've got a smaller one somewhere. Question is, where did I put it? So, from what I can remember, the cliff, top of the cliff comes along like so. Now I'm cutting the picture in half here. You can't really see the bottom, but you will in a moment. The cliff, oh, let me think, compositionally, where should we go? Let's say to here. And comes down. what I can remember. Well, it would, wouldn't it? It can only go so high. Let's say it goes to a little pinnacle just about there, just to make it interesting. In fact, slightly up. Now, what I'm relying on, you see, is the brush and the consistency of the paint to the oil. Quick answer to a question. Somebody said, what is the consistency of the oil in the paint? Well, I can't tell you. I have no idea, because I just do it by feel. It's what seems right. I think that will come down. How far should we come down? I think I remember now. Yeah, it came down to the beach. I don't know whether there's anyone else out there who has an eidetic memory, but it's quite incredible how things come back to you. Let's just adjust this camera a little bit. Okay, so hopefully you can see the bottom of the painting just about, I think. Yeah, if you have an eidetic memory, it's quite strange how you recall stuff. Well, how I recall stuff is it just sort of appears in front of me. I had this thing when, just to explain an eidetic memory. Okay, so with me, and I know it's different with most people, at the end of the day, when I go to bed, I get like a slideshow of what I've seen during the day. And it's like I could be looking around my room and I could be looking over there, which has a stack of paintings. And if I look over there behind the camera, there's a window, corner of the room, pipes coming down, typical old French house, pipes everywhere, etc. And just down there, which you can't see, there's the printer. And before I go to sleep, I will see little snapshots of all these things that I've looked at during the day, even things that I've looked at unconsciously. They're not things that I've specifically tried to memorize. Anyway, I go through this slideshow before I go to sleep, and it's quite interesting. It's quite fascinating, really, how these things sort of reveal themselves to you. So I see a projected image when I look at this board here. This is plywood, by the way. 5mm thick, Okoume. That'll be in the description box down below. And yeah, I don't know. It's the most bizarre thing, anyway. So the cliff is going to come down here, so I'm going to bring more sky, and then I think there was a sort of break way over here. I have this memory of a cliff coming down, something going on there. Maybe it was over this way. Maybe let's say it was about there. There's like a dip where the land reappears. That'll make sense in a moment. And then over here in the distance is the not is it, isn't it? Is or an arm? Are the Seven Sisters. And is one of the characteristics of the South Downs are these look like big dips you get in the land. You get big cliff like this rising up and then just sudden drops 300 feet or so. I know further along the coast here there's a place called Beachy Head, which I think is actually around 300, maybe a bit more feet high. It's quite a long way up or a long way down, depending whether you're looking down or whether you're looking up, I suppose. Anyway, and down here this will be, it's not sand, it's mostly stone. In fact, I'm going to get some stone colour. Yellow ochre is sort of beach coloured in that it's, well, that colour, okay. But of course the beaches aren't totally that colour, they're that with grey. So let's see what we can come up with. It's just, actually, it's quite interesting. I think if you live in England, I don't live in England now, I live in France, but if you live in England, there are some beaches that are really nice, but there are also some that are, well, interesting, but I would say slightly less than boring. In that, this is all my grunting. I'm just sort of reaching around trying to grab stuff. Yeah, some of the beaches are sort of, I don't know, tedious. And if they're going to be in a picture, they're just going to be like a bit of an afterthought, which is what I'm doing here. I'm painting an afterthought. So I've got yellow ochre and Payne's grey, which gives me this sort of colour. Now let me figure out where I'm going to put it first. I think it's going to be way down the bottom actually. It's that sort of, that colour. Can you see that? Yeah, I think you can. I'm going to move the camera a bit more. Why should you suffer? There you go. I'll move it in a moment up a little bit just to get back to the sky, because there will be some more sky stuff that I've got to put in. How's that for describing sky, eh? Some more sky stuff. Okay, so this is going to probably, I've got to sort of come up with something as I said, you know, fantasy and magic. I'm trying to come up with something as I work. So there were sort of bouts of sunshine on the day, and there was also bouts of shadow. Now this brush, this is not a cheap brush. This is from a Cultura shop in France, and it's so it's not like one of my normals. My normals usually come from you know, hardware stores. This is supposed to be quite a good brush. However, it is shedding a few bristles. And the next thing I'm going to do is same brush, no cleaning, just adding a bit of white to the colour that I've just mixed. In fact, when I say a bit of white, I'm lying. I mean a lot of white, because I want there to be some light hitting the beach. This is totally in the wrong place here. Totally in the wrong. That's going to have to go. I'm sort of slightly askew there. I think maybe I should have brought that down further. I don't know yet. Everything's adjustable, of course. So I'm not going to worry about this green. I'm going to just add it to the colour that I've got, because it doesn't really matter. And believe it or not, there will be some sea in this. So let's just go back to the sky for a moment. Working on the idea that the sky will come down here. The cliff is going to break, and then it's going to come straight down. Solid drop. There'll be something going on over there, like I said, and then we'll figure out. In fact, I might even leave the Seven Sisters out and just have dark, mysterious sky stuff over there. Keep it simple. If it works in its simple form, then it's usually okay. So let's just bring that down there. So there's going to be some shadow. I'm going to put some very quick shadow down the cliff. This is how loose these things can be. Just sort of get something in there just for later. What should we do here? It's going to be a bit of a shadow in there, I think, and then it will come up against this bit, like so. And then the most of the cliff stuff here I'll put on with a palette knife. So let's just get something on there. Obviously, not a good day to be out at sea. And I'm going to bring the water around, so it'll be over there. One of the characteristics of the south coast is the tide goes out quite a long way, so you get beach going out. But I'm going to change that. I don't really like it. I don't think it will suit this picture, but that's easily done. And I'll do that in a moment. So back to the sky. I'm going to have some more light bits. Now I'm starting to not use much oil here. Some light over there, because I want good coverage with the paint. Now I do want quite a dark sky next to the white cliff here, so I'm going to exaggerate that a little bit, and let's get some interesting cloud shapes in there. Let's see what happens, eh? Remember when I said fantasy and magic? This is the fantasy, and I hope the magic will appear in a moment. So, do I want any more blue? I think, I don't know, let's play it by ear. Do I want a bit up the top there? You probably didn't see that anyway, it doesn't matter. You're not missing much there. So, what should we do here? What shall we do? Let's have a little hint of blue over there. I mean, when I say a hint of blue over there, it's going to be sort of blue-grey. And in fact, I'm going to blur the transition from the sky to the land just a little bit, because I just like it. No other reason. Okay, now let's start thinking about lunch. No, let's start thinking about what we're going to do regarding the sea. Don't know yet. In fact, I don't really care yet. I'm going to just play around. Now, it's a lot of people when they paint seascapes, and I don't mean you, I mean just people, have this desire to make the sea blue, the same colour as the sky. Now that doesn't always happen. Got to keep an eye on that. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on lots of factors, all to do with where the light's coming from, where it's going, what it's bouncing off. And of course light can bounce off everything. It bounces off the sea, obviously. I'm just going to put a little bit of slight golden colour up there, because, you know, Turner would have. He would have done that. There was no stopping the man. Let's just do it. Yeah, it's getting quite wild. Right, so reminds me of my college days. In fact, it was so, back in the 60s, you know, anything went. So back to the greens. I'm going to make a few little changes here. There's something I'm not quite happy about. I think that needs to have a bit more of a general curve there, rather than a little tight curve there. And of course, on the side of the on the side of the downs, you get gorse bushes, and gorse bushes are very, very dark green. So I'm going to paint every bush. I'm just going to put in the impression here that there's something growing on the side of this hill, and there we are. It's quite a long way away. You wouldn't see any detail. It's just an impression. There we go. So something is growing up there on the side of that down. Although it's up, it's the downs, if you know what I mean. Typical English thing. Confuse the rest of the world with your strange language. But anyway, yeah, there's the North Downs, the South Downs. The North Downs are obviously above the South Downs, because the South Downs are further south, the North is further north. So the South Downs are definitely going to be below them, aren't they? So it gets sillier and sillier. Anyway, they're the Downs, not the Ups. We don't call them the Ups. I suppose it would make more sense to call them the Ups. But anyway, I digress. Okay, so we got some nice downy effects there, a little bit of texture on the hill, and we'll put in the odd scrape mark, because there are scrape marks. There are paths cut into the hill, like so, and there are, let me think, there's definitely, oh, it's taxing my brain a bit. There's definitely paths going up here. I don't know what they look like, something like that. So there we are, just a little bit of quick texture. I'm going to start piling on white paint in a moment with a palette knife. But what do I need to do at the bottom? What do I need to do with the sea? From what I can recall, the cliffs will be going out that way. Okay, I think I've got it. It's not totally the same. It's sort of close. But I'll never recall it completely. Let's just make it a bit higher. The reason I'm doing that is because I want it to be, it's got to have this monumental feel. I mean, maybe I could have exaggerated it and gone up a bit higher. I wonder, it might be more dynamic if I do that. I think I'll do it. If for no other reason than to just show you that it can be done. So without worrying about, you know, colour mixing. Let's go up just to about, I think about there. And I'll just let that sit on the top of the hill. And let's get some, let me think, let's get some white paint mixed with yellow. And have a little think here. Let's say that we're going to whiten that. Oh yeah, right, I like that. Yeah, that's got a nice glow to it. What I'm liking, just so you know, I'm liking the effect of this next to the dark. That's what's floating my boat just at this particular moment. Just got to get rid of that bit of rogue paint there, and going to exaggerate that a little bit. Okay, not too much, just a touch. So next thing is a nice big juicy, I don't know, can a palette knife be juicy? There's something juicy about these things. I don't know. No, it can't be juicy. Something just downright exciting. Right. Now I'm gonna just remove a little bit of this green here, so that it makes putting the white on a little better, because I don't mind grey mixing with the white. I'm not particularly keen on the green at the moment, although later it will be essential because it just has a nice effect. So let's see what happens next. We got a palette knife with white paint, and that is going to come up against the cliff here. Now I'm putting white on white. You won't see much at the moment. It'll start to work in a minute when it starts blending with the grey. But all I did there was just sharpen that line a bit, because I'm after, you know, I'm going to repeat it again, fantasy and magic. I want to get some magic in it. So how do we do that? Well, we just sort of, I don't know, just hope it works. So let's just get some nice white paint in there. I'm trying to get into the habit of turning and looking at my viewfinder on the camera every now and then, because I know that sometimes I prattle on about stuff and I forget that you can't see what's going on, and I'm going to guarantee that it won't happen in this video. You're going to see everything, even the bits that go wrong. So I want the cliff to be interesting along the edge here. Let me think. Let's go a little bit mad there. Bearing in mind, this is chalk, and chalk has interesting textures to it. Now, I'll tell you something, here's something interesting. Well, not to everyone, but to me in this particular moment. Chalk. We have lots of chalk in England. We have the White Cliffs of Dover, but basically the cliffs all the way along the south coast of England, along to, I don't know where it starts to change, but Dorset has a different type of stone, but southeast of England is basically chalk, and lots of it, and it's got a certain look. Obviously it's white. very striking when the sun's on it, and very striking when you're out at sea looking back at it. And I must tell you a story. Back in the early 70s, I used to work for an ad agency on the south coast of England, in Brighton. And it's quite a long story, this. I wonder whether you should even go there. But anyway, yeah, why not? One of the, well, he was a copywriter. I won't give his name, but he was a copywriter. He wrote text for adverts and brochures and all kinds of stuff. I'm sure he's no longer with us now, but I still won't mention his name. Anyway, he had a boat, and he said to me, he and his wife were going to go sailing, but would I go because his wife can't go, and he wanted 2 people on the boat. So I thought, yeah, this could be good fun, this. So I agreed. I was 21 maybe. And in fact, I would have been, or even 20, maybe I was 20. I was quite young anyway. And I agreed. I said, yeah, that'd be fun. So off we went. And I got really, really seasick. I was so sick. I just wanted to end it. I thought, this is terrible. Anyway, off we went. The idea was that we would sail off from a place called Shoreham Harbour, and we would go about 3 miles out into the English Channel, park the boat at a place called New Haven. I know there's a New Haven in the US, but this is the original New Haven. And, you know, sleep on the boat and then sail back the next day. So off we went. And the weather suddenly got a bit bumpy, which is an understatement. It went from slightly bumpy to what felt like a hurricane. Now this will tell some people, or explain to some people, when this actually happened. We had a Prime Minister at the time called Edward Heath. And he had a boat, he had a yacht, in fact, called Morning Cloud. And he used to sail around the south coast of England, and near a place called the Isle of Wight. And I'm putting a load of white, by the way, talking of white. That's Wight spelt W-I-G-H-T. And yeah, I think he was in a race, some kind of yacht race thing. Anyway, this storm came up and it got ridiculously bad. And the guy who owned the boat that we were on suddenly got the frights. He'd told me that he was an experienced sailor, but I don't think he was being, how do I put it? You know that saying? He was being economical with the truth. So he suddenly got the frights and said, I have to go and lie down. And he went below deck and he went to his bunk and he went to sleep. And this is the first time I'd been on a boat like that. And he said, can you get us back to Shoreham Harbour? And of course I'm feeling very seasick. So I said, well, yeah, thanks, you know. Anyway, the engine was so weak, all I could do was, I think it was instinct actually. I climbed onto the deck and I got the sails down because the water was just unbelievably rough. I got the sails down and then I got the engine going, but the engine was so weak that all I could do was, I had enough power just to turn the boat into the waves so that we didn't get broadsided. And then gradually work my way along the coast and get the boat back into the harbour, which took, and I'm not exaggerating, 12 hours of sitting there trying to stop this boat from turning over. All the time he had disappeared and gone off to sleep. You know, I mean, it didn't put me off sailing, it just put me off sailing with certain people, I think. But anyway, I got the boat back. I have no idea how I did it, but on the way back, a lifeboat went past me. Well, they came up close and they said, "Are you okay? Can you get back all right?" And I said, "Well, I think so, as long as I keep pointing this way and, you know, coming in sideways." And they said, "Yeah, that's the right thing to do. Good luck. We've got to go and look for some divers." So I thought, well, at least I've got a boat under me, and these divers are just sort of, you know, all they've got is a rubber dinghy somewhere further out, and the lifeboat's going off to try and find them. And so yeah, I got this boat back. That's it. Now this, you can see there, the contrast is starting to work a little bit. And I've always found cliffs like this quite fun to do, because, you know, I'm not going to be exact in the picture, you know, how it looks in real life, but just going to have a feeling. Anyway, so off they went. And I think they found the divers. I don't know. I'm sure they did. It would have been on the news if they hadn't, actually. And then, yeah, I got back, and as I got back into the harbour, this guy came up on the deck. Didn't even say thank you. He's just sort of, I think he was embarrassed, actually. Anyway, that was that. I never went sailing with him again. Didn't really particularly feel like risking my life. Something I never forgot. Anyway, so when you're out sailing on the south coast of England and you've got a problem, it's always good to see the white cliffs, because it tells you that land is in that direction and it might be worth heading over that way, which is exactly what I did, and never forgotten it. And it turns out that over the weekend, the ex-Prime Minister's boat, the Morning Cloud, sank. That's how bad the storm was. And yeah, quite a memorable. So if you look that up on the news, putting Morning Cloud, Edward Heath's yacht, that was the exact same day that I was out there in that storm. And I've never forgotten it, and I never will. And the strange thing is, the seasickness went as soon as the weather got rough. And I was thinking, I've already got to concentrate on this now. Not this is easy. I've got to concentrate on the sailing this boat. Yeah, it focused my mind. Seasickness went away. I think we'll just have cliff disappearing off over the way, like so. Is that going to work? I think it might. By the time I finished it will anyway. And then I'm going to start piling on some water down here, which is going to be grey, and bit of a grey sort of day here. So let's just get some Payne's grey, royal blue, and a bit of white, and let's see how that looks. Maybe a bit too bluey at the moment, but that's okay. So let's bring some sea in here. Like I said, you don't necessarily want to paint the water blue. It's going to have a sort of greyish feel to it. Let's just put a little bit in there, I think. A bit more white. One thing I've noticed when I'm painting, whenever I start to use white, I get it everywhere because it's white and you don't see it. It's on the paper that I'm using to clean the brush every now and then suddenly it's all over my hands. Okay, so we've got some bit of cliff. I'm going to work along this edge along here. Not quite happy with that yet. Sky's looking sort of interesting. Let's give you a little view of the sky. Let's just move it up a bit. Let's just go to there for now. Whoops, no, let's go to there. And then that will give you more of an overview. Okay. So yeah, right, well, back to painting. That's enough stories. I'm going to do a little bit of taking away just there, because I want to thin down any foliage that's on the top of that cliff. It's quite a long way away. I've actually walked up this hill many times, the real place, obviously. And last time, as I said, The last time I was there, I took a photograph roughly from a spot like this, but maybe further over that way, down that way. And I saw a guy and he walked all the way along the top here and he just stood right on the edge. And I thought, oh my goodness, you know, have we got a jumper? But he was obviously just sort of one of those people who does that stuff. Never quite got it myself, but there you go. I don't mind heights. I just don't want to fall off them. I think that's a reasonable. And I don't particularly want to see anyone else fall off either. Okay, so I've got a square-ended, you can see it, a square-ended palette knife. Now, when I'm doing stuff like this, I've got to be a little careful. I don't want to go wobbling about all over the place here. I've got to be a little bit precise. Now, I could use a stick across there to lean my hand on, but I don't think I'm quite that old yet. I have used one before, but when I was very young, when I needed to do exceptional detail, but this isn't detail, this is I just need precision. Now the cliffs that are going off along in the distance here, I think this might be good for that too. Get a bit more white on there. I think maybe it will work if how am I going to do this? I'm going to do it that way. The cliffs don't go into a point here, but I don't know what they do, but they go off that way. So I think I'm going to do a little bit of artistic license. So whatever they do in real life, I don't know. Maybe it comes up, yeah, I think it comes up and then down over there like so. So I'm just doing a bit of an impression there. Okay, that's looking reasonable. And I need to tidy up the bottom edge. Now the bottom edge is basically large pebbles and a bit of sand. I mean, there is some there, but it's not, as I said, it's not like golden sand. It's a strange colour, but there needs to be a definite bottom to the cliff, and I think it's going to be that sort of effect that I've got just in that bit there. Okay, right now I've just suddenly had a thought that I've had a lot of questions over the last few days. Some I've managed to get back to, some I haven't, because as I said, I wasn't feeling too good. Much better today, I have to say. It's nice when that happens, obviously. And it's quite amazing what a difference it makes to your general feeling of well-being and the desire to do anything. I mean, if you have, I've got this congestive heart failure thing, and the effect it has is that some days you get the intention is there to do things, but you know, you just can't move. You just have to just take it easy, which is what I do now. I don't fight it. If I really have to stop, then I stop. And I've had several days of that. So, as I said, you know, the will is there, but the body is saying, no, take a day off, so I do it. Anyway, what I was going to say is, right, some questions that people have asked me. One is, how do I clean my brushes? So, just to reiterate, I use detergent, the type of stuff that you would use in your washing machine. And let's say this here is a brush. Imagine this has got paint all over it. The first thing I'll do is wipe the paint off with paper. Just pull as much off as you can. Once you've done that, then I dip this in the detergent, so there's no water added whatsoever. And then you just massage, basically massage the brush, get it right in through the bristles for a long time. Spend a bit of time on it. Once you've done that and you feel that you've got enough paint mixed with the detergent, then use lukewarm water and rinse. Now, if you want to do it, that's fine. I've got different views on it now. Rinse it until it is completely or gone. You don't want any detergent left in it. It's just got to be completely clean. It may be stained, but it'll be clean. But get all the soap out, otherwise it won't help your brush. Now, the other thing I was talking about on another video, I don't know which one it was, can't remember, is some of these brushes are so cheap, I think it may be better for the planet if I don't clean them. They cost €2. Okay, so when you look at one of these brushes, you've got a metal bit, you've got a wooden bit, and you've got the bristles. If I put that in the recycling, the bristles will probably get burnt off, the metal will be separated from the wood, the metal will be melted down into new products, and the wood probably ground up and turned into something else, maybe paper, I don't know. But when I think of the amount of water I would need to clean the brush, it may be better just not to bother. I don't know. Let me know your views. Maybe I've got it completely wrong. Who knows? Anyway, so that's that question answered. So I'm going to get back to this, and I'm going to continue to put this sort of, well, it's not, as I said, it's not sand, it's pebbles and gravel along here. And we're going to take that right to the edge. Now, I've got to be careful there. I don't like things going off the edge, but on this, I might not worry about it, because I'm going to try and get attention over here. And we'll see how that goes. So the bottom of the cliff, at the moment, it's quite a sort of sharp line, and from what I can remember, that is what it looks like. But I've got to start getting texture in the chalk. So first of all, let's finish off a little bit more paint along there. Okay, now here, this is going to be, because of the nature of chalk, it's going to be a lot of streaky grey lines. So I think to get that, first of all, I'm going to put in white and then put the grey on top. So you'll have to take my word for it, because you won't see much here, but this is white on white, obviously. So it's just flat with the odd bit of colour dropping in it, as you can see, which is totally accidental, but it doesn't matter. Oh yeah, another comment. Okay, so I was saying in a recent video that I don't want to use the word happy accidents. Somebody else already used that. So maybe I should use something else. And I got quite an interesting bunch of suggestions of what I could call these things. You know, when you get something like this sort of texture here appearing, that over, you know, when you step back from the painting, it looks like grass with foliage on it and, you know, bushes and stuff, which I don't actually paint, they just appear. For instance, let me show you what I mean on the, up here. Let's get this clean. Okay, so there's a clean palette knife. No colour on there at all, right? So I can do things now with this on here that will make things appear just by pushing it and scraping it and taking paint off. You might have been able to see that, I don't know. But anyway, it's the sort of accidental stuff that just happens. You don't quite know why it happens or what it's going to do. It just does. So I'll put some of the comments that people came up with on the screen when I find them. And that should appear soon. I wonder which is the best way to describe it. You know, happy accidents, nah. What's his name used that? You know who I mean by what's his name, I'm sure. And I could probably call them, I don't know. Can't think of anything at the moment. Anyway, I'm going to just carry on and start to do stuff with the beach that's going to bring it forward, because I want there to be a nice big contrast between the beach and the cliff, even though it won't be exactly this colour. in real life. So we're going to just have shadow, just sort of, it's almost semi-neutral, I suppose. In fact, I think I'm going to put oil in that as well, because that'll break it up and cause all kinds of textures which are desirable at the moment. Are you seeing the entire bottom of the picture? I did say, didn't I, that I would avoid this happening. Let's just show you the bottom there. There we go. Right, so this is just something for the light to work on against. And it doesn't really matter what it looks like at the moment, it's just going to be texture. So just a few lines across there. Like I said, I don't really care what happens to it because I'll be painting over that. Let's get a little bit more yellow ochre in that. There's basically yellow ochre and yellow ochre, red ochre and Payne's grey. And I'm just going to sort of play with the effect of the sea. There we go. Right. Okay, we'll get back to this bit in a minute. Right, palette knife. Palette knife with blue and white. So this is a very pale blue. And I might have a bit of reflection from that. I don't know. In real life, I'm not sure that you would get much. You get a bit, but it wouldn't be like... not like you get on a lake, let's put it that way. So let's just get the effect of sea coming up inland here. And then it comes down over the sand, which is where you get that interesting thing happening, where you get a mix of the colour of seawater and sand. Sand that is waterborne, in other words, it's moving around in the water, and it becomes the colour of the water. Or the water becomes the colour of the sand or gravel in this case. And I want to level that because it would be. Okay, and then down here it starts to come towards us. I'm not worried about these lumps of paint here. In fact, sometimes when you do that, the lumps have the desired effect. You know, they give the effect of a wave, just by leaving a lump of paint there. I don't particularly want that. I mean, it's nice, it's okay, but it's not quite what I'm after. So let's just carry on pushing it around. It's a little bit blue for my liking. I might whiten it up a bit, or a lot. There we go. Quite a nice effect. Now, putting that line there, apart from the fact that, you know, you would get that, okay? But by emphasising it, it brings the foreground closer. It exaggerates the perspective, which is what I want. And I'm going to put some more over here. I hope I'm not getting in the way. Am I getting in the way? Hope not. Sorry, if I am, I do apologise. But it's very difficult not to get in the way sometimes. You know, I've tried, I could move the camera over this side and look across that way, but it distorts it and it also only focuses on a small part of the painting. So I'll tell you what I might do. I'll tell you, yes, that's what I'll do. I'm going to zoom in. Right, I think you can see a bit more there, and you can also see, I mean, one of my things when I paint seas, I tend to paint calm days, and I have to admit I'm not good at large breaking waves. It's just not my thing. Some people are really good at it, and they have my admiration. It's just not something I do. I like calm water. Maybe it's because I got so seasick. Who knows? But I prefer the sort of long, slow, flat sort of waves coming in that aren't going to wash me away. Okay. Right, so what should we do now? We'll carry on with that. There's a few bits there. Obviously that bit there is not right. So what is the thing you find hardest? I've asked this question before on other videos, but of course not all of you have seen all my videos. So yeah, what do you like to see? Do you like seascapes? Do you like landscapes? Do you like cloudscapes? What is it that gets your attention? I have to say the thing I like painting more than anything is landscape. Although I have to say, you know, this is fun actually. Quite like it. It's sort of starting to look wet, which is always a good thing when you're painting water. So let's see, just checking my viewfinder here. Let's just see, let's get some white on the edge of that wave. That's not enough. A little bit more titanium white. Right, so this is just white, nothing added. And this is just to pull this right into our face here. So let's just have some stark white right down there. Okay, I think that pulls that forward quite well. So yeah, I funny enough, is it funny? No, it's not funny. I think if you're new to painting water, the sea in particular, this may be your preferred route because it's much easier to keep things clean using this technique, because I'm basically laying colour on top of colour without getting too much mud. And it sort of looks quite wet. So a few lines across there, and yes, I think that's good. Yes, that worked quite nicely. Right, so the distance over here, I've got to resolve that a little bit. So I'm just going to move the camera slightly. And the only reason I'm going right over that way is just to keep my shoulder out of the picture. Hopefully that'll work. So let's get, again, some more white. And just raise that a little bit over there. That didn't work quite as I wanted, but at least I got the paint on the board, and now it's there, I can do something with it. There. And it's still got that dip in it, and I'm trying to get rid of this dip. It's just the position that I'm in front of the picture, so I may get right in the way just for a second, so excuse my back. Slightly better, not wonderful, but slightly better. And I'm going to take that right off the edge. Yeah, maybe it's a distant wave that's about to come in and crash about. I think I need to simplify it. Well, that's straighter. And then I want the bottom edge to do that. So there we are, we've got distant cliff over here disappearing, but I'm going to make it slightly more intense, just with a tiny amount of white. Now where do I need to put it? Let me have a little think about this. I think it should be there. Just a little bit catching in the distance, like so. And then I'll just leave that to fade off and figure out if I'm going to do anything to it later. Let me just have a little pull of that down there. I do mumble sometimes. Sorry about that. I tend to think I've got such a good microphone now that I can mumble. I shouldn't really do that. Okay, so there's our distant cliffs. Right, so I'm going to go back to the other side of the cliff now. Okay, so that's the bit I'm going to be concentrating on. Let's go up there. So I want to make this look like chalk. I mean, it's white, but it's not very chalky at the moment. So I'm going to use pale blue. And I'm basically going to just sort of put some lines. Maybe I'll work from the bottom up. That might be a better idea. Let's just put some shapes in like so. Doesn't matter how strong they are at the moment, and it doesn't matter about that top edge much either, because that will get tweaked. I must say, it's actually quite fun doing things like this, particularly chalk anyway. Sort of, it's not the hardest thing to paint. So just to go over a couple of things that, about what people say and what they want to know. See, I've had a few comments from people who just want me to stop talking. I don't know. I mean, I maybe sometimes I do talk too much, but the whole point of a video about learning to paint is that you explain stuff. I could just sort of paint in complete silence, but I don't know that people would want that, so I'll keep droning on. You can always turn the volume off if you don't like it. And the other thing was, what was it? Yeah, people want to know about the wood that I paint on. As I said earlier, it's in the description below. It's called Okoume. It's an African mahogany, pale coloured wood. Good thing about it is it's got a nice, well, it's well-made plywood. I couldn't tell you who actually makes this actual plywood, but the only thing I can tell you is it's Okoume, and it's nice and stable. It doesn't seem to warp. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. People say, well, my board warps when I put gesso on it. I don't know why it's warping. The only thing I can say is whatever you do, don't force dry it. Let it dry, in a room where it's just a sort of good ambient temperature. Oh, and never try to force dry your oil painting. I know that some people seem to think that if you put a hairdryer on it or put it next to a heater, it'll speed it up. Well, it won't. It's because, it doesn't dry like that. It's a chemical process. It doesn't dry through evaporation. So don't do that. That won't do it any good. And some people have said, oh, keep your paints fresh by putting it in the fridge and putting cling film on it and stuff like that. Well, I don't do that much because I use up the paint that I've got usually. Most of it gets used up. Actually in the painting, there's a bit on my palette, but it's not much really. The biggest pile of colour that I haven't touched is the yellow ochre, but I always tend to underestimate that a bit. No, start again. I overestimate, or do I underestimate? Anyway, I get it wrong. I always have too much. Okay, now this is where we're going to start putting in non-detail. Just the odd bit of, the odd place where, you know, you get a bit of sunlight twinkling. Right. And the way I do that is just by touching it, putting the colour on and touching it and letting it do stuff. Let the palette knife pick up a little bit of paint every now and then put it back on again in a different place. And you'll find that things start to happen. For instance, I've got a little bit of white right on the edge of that, and I know that in this shadow here you're going to have the odd bit of white in there that catches, you know, a little bit of chalk that catches the light. So just sort of go for it. And also, particularly with this place, this cliff is continually eroding, so there's always lumps of chalk at the base down here. So just a little touch of light, like that one there, just gives a nice effect. And let's see, what should we do? I think there should be some signs of erosion. You can always tell when I'm really concentrating because I stop talking. There we are. Now, what else are we going to do? I won't wait till the end of the video. I'll start telling you about my classes. I've got one coming up on Saturday, a Zoom class. So I'll put a link below in case you're interested. Although it's Wednesday today, it may not be up in time, but I'll see if I can get it up in time. Yeah, I have one student coming here in October. Which days? Just going to check. Yeah, the 24th, 25th and 26th of October I have a student. I'm undecided as to whether I'm going to have any more students this year because and it's just down, it's not that I don't want people, it's just my energy levels because of my condition. If I really feel better, then I might extend the classes a bit and accept more people. Don't know. It's a difficult one because I'd like to have someone every week, which is what I did in 2019, I think it was. I had lots and lots of people coming here, but you know, it does take a lot out of you. I mean, I don't know how long I've been painting now. Maybe I'm up to about an hour, don't know. But I'm getting to the point where I really need to sort of stop for a while. But I do tend to think that, you know, even if you get tired and slightly flaky on your feet, then maybe that's the time to push back. I don't know. What I don't want to do is get in the I give up phase, which I'm sure a lot of people do get to. I'd like to keep going as long as possible. And on a personal note, I don't live my life in fear of the consequences of what's wrong with me, because, you know, let's face it, none of us are going to get out of here alive, and you might as well do what you want to do and enjoy yourself while you can. So, you know, I can't walk around going, oh, I'm so ill, because there are people much, much worse off than me, you know. So I'm not going to let it rule my life. That's looking quite cliffy. I might have to come back to this because, you know, you get to the point where there's so much paint. You've got to be a little bit careful so that you don't just mud it up too much. And in fact, glazing over something like this, you know, you could pick up a tint of the sky and reflect that on the chalk at a later date. When it's dry, it's safe. Of course, you just, you know, you put a glaze over it, and if you don't like it, you can just remove it. If you want to know about glazing, just have a look through my videos. I keep meaning to number them so that people can keep a record of what they've seen. But like I said, you know, I get days when I just can't do anything, so the priorities change. I'm going to just put some light down there. Okay, right, I'm going to go back to the sky. Where am I? Wait a minute. No, not. I'm going to fiddle with the beach a little bit more. Then I'm going to go to the sky. And whenever you hear a loud noise like this, it's not that I have a digestive problem, it's me peeling off paper from my giant roll of this stuff. Okay. Right, let's zoom back a bit. So the beach, what should we do with the beach? I don't know, I'm still thinking that I need to darken the foreground a bit. So I'm going to just pile on some Payne's grey and yellow ochre, but more Payne's grey, I think. Let's get it that colour, I think. Just to sort of just bring that forward a little bit. I might even put the odd rock pool in there, maybe. That could be effective. So this is just white, basically, straight from the tube. All I'm going to do is just sort of extend that a touch, like so, and then just put in a few of these. Now you've got to be careful about the angle that you make these. They have to be horizontal but leaning down to the sea, which is what of course they would do. But mostly horizontal. That's the feeling you want to give, but you know, with a slight slope back that way. And I think I'll leave that as it is, and then we'll go back to the sky. And then we're done. So as we're starting to get to the point where we're done, yeah, if you want a Zoom class with me, then you know, just go to the link below. They are extremely good fun. They go on for up to 3 hours. It says on the booking thing that it's 90 minutes, but it's longer. I paint for an hour, then talk. And you can sort of chat about anything you like, really. But I prefer to keep it on the subject of the actual painting in question, because otherwise people come up with questions that I don't really have any answers to. And it's good to keep it relevant, because I think most people want to know about what I paint on the day and how to go about it. And then maybe at some time I'll do some lessons where I've just got to do this before I move on, where I will you know, do an open, as they call, open mic type thing, where you can ask me, you know, about anything. But anyway, so there's the cliff. Some of these white bits here, it may sound silly, a little bit too white, but I'm not going to worry too much about them. Okay, so yeah, I think there we are. Is that the effect I want? Yes, it is. Right, so now I'm really going back to the sky. And oh yeah, there's something I did want to mention. I was contacted. Now this is not paid promotion. I'm not being paid to do this. A company got in touch with me. What do they call themselves? Etched, E-T-C-H-E-D, and they said that they'd like to send me one of their sketchbooks. And I thought, well, that's interesting, a sketchbook. Yeah, I don't do much in the way of sketching, but I'm going to use this book. Now I'll just get my hands clean so that I can actually pick this thing up and show it to you, because it's so nice, I don't want to get paint on it. And when you bear in mind that there's paint on everything, even the cat sometimes, but that's rare, I have to say. Okay, so there's this sketchbook. Now I'm going to have to play with the focus here. Focus automatic. Okay, here's this book. So here's this sketchbook they sent me, and they put my name on it. They've sort of, well, they used to call this hot metal, this effect. But it's like, it's a metallic finish. They put my name on it, which I thought was rather nice. And it isn't actually paper. Let me see if I can zoom back a bit so you get a better idea what I'm showing you here. Okay, so here's the sketchbook. It's very heavy. It weighs, it's like stone. Now the reason is because it is made from stone. Okay, not the cover particularly, but the pages, this is not wood pulp. It's an interesting texture too. It's slightly smooth, which I think is good. You can do watercolour on it, you can do oil. Now I'm going to do some oil paintings on some of the pages here. Obviously I'll have to leave it to dry before I can turn the pages. But this is it, it's substantial. And it's etched stone paper. I'll just read you the letter they sent. Strange to think, isn't it, that you can have a paper that's made from stone. And I'll leave off the first paragraph because they're praising my paintings. It says, what you're holding is the future of paper, etched stone paper. Made from 100% recycled stone, this paper is created with the future in mind. No trees are cut down, no bleaches or acids are used, no water is used, no waste is produced, 85% less energy is used, and 60% less CO2 is emitted when producing this paper. Unlike regular paper, this paper is waterproof since it's made of 80% limestone from construction waste and 20% recyclable resin. It's also tear resistant, but it's not tear proof. You can tear it, but you wouldn't particularly want to, I think. It's buckle proof and has no ink bleed through. They've sent this with no strings attached. They're not paying me. In fact, they say it there on the, whoops, let's get that in the right place. Okay. No strings attached. I didn't have to actually say anything on the video, but I decided that I would because I like it. I like the feel of it. It's got a nice feel. I'll do some sketches and I'll show you and see, and maybe I'll show you how oil paint takes to it and pencil. And I'll be coming back to that in the future. So that's this stuff. And yeah, I thought that was very nice. They didn't ask me to do a promotion, and it's not really a promotion. I'm just sort of recommending it, really. So there we are. Interesting stuff. So let's have a look at the sky. I think I will zoom in. And so you get a bit more of bit more of a view. I want to fill the frame, but I want to get the whole sky in. Let's just get that back just a bit more. Excuse me, mumbling away here. Let's get the top in as well. There we are. I think that's as big as we're going to get it. Okay. Right, so there we are. That's it from a distance. Do I need to do anything to the sky? The only thing I'm thinking that I do need to do is the top edge of this bank of cloud here, this stuff there, I can fiddle with that in a minute, but I don't like that straight line echoing the cliff, so I'm probably just going to put a bump or two in it, and that's easy. A bump or two basically is incredibly easy because it just sort of comes with the brush. There's a bump or two on the brush before it's a bump or two actually on the painting, and all I'm going to do is just sort of go like that, just enough to take away that solid line, and we keep this. That's quite nice there. That'll be more white in the finished thing. These bits underneath here don't need to have much white in them. Let me just see what comes off the brush. Pretty well the same, but I can just mute them a little bit. And I think that is working reasonably well. Obviously, as I said, you know, it's a stormy day coming, and why not? And this one is going to be fun. The second sitting, putting another colour on it in complete safety, where I know I can't go wrong, and I think it'll be an interesting painting. There we are. What else can I say? Yeah, contact me if you want the Zoom lessons. If you want to be a patron via my Patreon page, feel free to do that. Doesn't matter if you don't. I always say this: I won't hold it personally against you. And I'd just like to say also, thank you to the people who do donate. It does make a difference to my life. And I'm eternally grateful to all of you. If you are a patron, and you that means you get cheaper Zoom classes. What else does it give you? It also means that you see the video of the Zoom class, even if you weren't there. Yeah, if you're a patron, you get to see the Zoom class videos as soon as I upload them, and that's, I think, probably it. So I think, oh no, it's never it, is it? I can just see something else there, something that just sort of takes my fancy a bit, and I think it just needs a little bit of light down there. I haven't gone over it with a big brush. I might do that and say, oh yes, that was it. I know, there was something bugging me all the way through this. Somebody wanted to see how smooth this becomes after I go over it with a big brush, you know, the smoothing technique. So I'm going to show you. Right, so here's, it's not an enormous brush, but it's bigger than the one I've been using, and it's completely dry brush, never used for anything before. And all I'm going to do is just do the sweepy thing where you barely touch the picture. so that there's hardly anything coming off on the brush. And what it does, it takes away some brush marks, doesn't take them all away. I don't really want to do that. I like the fact that some stay. It's just had a nice effect on the painting, I think. And then I'm going to zoom in a moment and show you how smooth it becomes. Obviously here we've got this cliff, which is, you know, a lump of wet paint. I don't want to go over that, so I'm working away from it here. Okay, so that's the sky softened a bit, and now I'm going to zoom in and you can see how soft. Change the focus. So I don't think I can zoom in any further than that. Yep, that's maximum. Okay, so let's just move around the painting a bit. Right, so you can see lots of bumps actually on the cliff, but when I go up there, you can see it's softened down considerably. And then across, any lines that you can see are usually just the lines in the gesso underneath the painting. So there we are, there's this sort of reddish bit. That's the ternary bit. It'll be more ternary when I finish the painting. A little bit of a golden spot in the sky there. And then down there, in fact there's hardly any paint on the board at all. And there's the detail that isn't in the grass. And then we go down to the bottom, along the base of the cliff. A few bumps in the paint, a few shadows. And then down here, we have the waves, and that's it. So, let's zoom back. And I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope you'll come back for more. So please, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. And there's a little bell icon next to it. If you click on that, you'll get a message saying that I've uploaded a new video. And your life, I hope, will be enriched. Okay, thanks for being here, and see you next time. Bye for now.